Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Pearl Daily, where I cover this week's cultural news, and oftentimes I'll give personal stories of my personal experience interviewing 1,000 women. As you guys know, I was a normal woman selling copiers in Milwaukee when I stumbled upon red pill content. This led me to starting a YouTube show that became one of the biggest in the United States and got 1 billion views on YouTube. When I moved to England to play semi-pro volleyball, it was something I did on the side and it blew up. When that happened, I learned a lot of lessons and I've wanted to spend the next 2 weeks talking about them. So, before we start, please make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also we are currently demonetized, so make sure you go to theaudacitynetwork.com and sign up for our monthly and yearly memberships. After the show today, we're going to do a 30-minute Q&A after the show, just on the website exclusively, so sign up for the $10 a month to be a part of that. Okay, so today's topic. I want to preface that when I give these topics, I'm not saying I'm better or different than women. I'm still a woman just like the rest of these women. A lot of times when I give my analyses and give my topics, people have a tendency to attack me, but I'm trying to tell you guys what's going on. So what inspired today's show was, and I want to pull this up on screen if you don't mind. Brett Cooper recently had a tweet, and her tweet was, wait, let me go up. Okay. And her tweet was an abortion argument. So she said, consent to sex is not consent to pregnancy. It's one of the most common responses to saying that women should just keep their legs closed. And it's also one of the most laughable. Yes, humans can have sex with the express goal of procreating and also not, but the intention does not change the possible outcome of pregnancy. Pretending like it does because you have the option to kill your baby is just a way to rationalize not taking personal responsibility. Your statement means nothing. So this I completely agree with. I think in 2024, there is zero excuse to have an unplanned pregnancy. You can track your cycle. There's plan B. There's 1,000,000 forms of birth control. There's only like 3 or 4 days in a month where you statistically are likely to get pregnant. So from my point of view, if you have an unplanned pregnancy, you are being irresponsible. Now, as you guys know, I personally am pro-life. I don't believe in abortion. If I was making the rules, it would not be legal. However, I'm also realistic. I don't see this as anything that will change in my lifetime. I think, the majority of voters are female and women will never give up that power. So when I see people protesting this stuff, while I empathize with them because I think it's wrong, I do believe that the arguments are a waste of time. I've watched these abortion debates since when I was 12, 13 years old, and every year there's more abortions. Even a lot of conservatives see the overturning of Roe versus Wade as a win. Again, women, not all women, but it is unlikely that the voting bloc will give up power. That abortion is reproductive freedom, and never in history has a group gotten power and said, you know what, let me just give it back. Here you go. I think it's unrealistic, and unless there's a repeal the 19th, which I don't believe would ever happen in my lifetime, I don't see it as being realistic. So from my perspective, those arguments are a waste of time unless you want to be entertained. That's how I view it. So she responded again to this tweet and she said, people like to pretend that sex is some kind of recreational sport with no consequences. But no matter how much you lie to yourself, that is simply not objectively true. Now, Rollo Tomassi, I know he has his feelings about me, but I'm a fan of his work. I think he had one of the best books that's ever been written on these topics. He said, did you lose your virginity to your husband, Brett? Now, this is a really common question in this space. There's accounts like Luffy. He's a funny one. He's a smaller account. That's all he does. There's conservative women and what they do is they virtue signal. So they say they are signaling to the group, I am pure. And they'll do this in a bunch of different ways. One way they do this is they say not all women are like that. Another way that they do this is they say they wear flower dresses. They get in their kitchen. They try to signal that they are different and they are traditional. But when it boils down to it, most women in 2024 that are attractive did not lose their virginities to their husband. So what is important to men? Actions or words? You can say you're traditional, you can put on a dress, you can signal that you're different to the group, but men want to know, are you putting your money where your mouth is? And it's very weird, right? You're thinking, I'm sure she is, why is this old guy asking me about my virginity? That's pretty personal. Why are you asking that? And he kind of clarifies, you incels are so dumb that you attack each other. It's fun to watch. And he says, ridicule is the last resort of people without an argument. Nobody ever talks about guys pimping nuts and okay, whatever. Not this part, the other one, sorry. Okay, so then he says, did you lose your virginity to your wife? Nope, but I'm not the one making a living off late game virtue signaling about sport effing late either. So this is a common grievance, and I don't think it's unfair. So women are shapeshifters. Women have the ability to completely change into a different person based on their environment. Now, I don't personally view this as a bad thing. This is how women survive, and it's a part of femininity. When a woman meets a man that she's falling in love with, I've seen women switch their religions for a man. I've seen women change the way they dress. I've seen women change their habits. I've seen women date personal trainers and get in shape. I've seen women that are Christian date Muslims and switch that for him. In some regard, men want the women to shape shift a little bit to cater to his life. They might learn his recipes. They might study what he likes and become complementary to his life. But the issue is when women are signaling to Christian men, oftentimes they will shapeshift. So I want to talk about first, what is the red pill? The red pill is a praxeology, and it is the study of human behavior. So basically, all the men came together online and they said, you know what? We want to figure women out. Let's talk about our personal experiences. So one experience that many men had, and this transcends countries, continents, this transcends everything, is that when women want to get married, usually around the age of 27, they magically become religious. And this isn't necessarily because the woman wants to, but because she has to. Her biology's kicking in and says, you need a kid. You're running out of time. Some women, it's earlier, some it's later. And they magically find religion. Oftentimes, the women themselves believe it. So they personally believe they have found God. But the issue is once they get the child, a lot of them switch up. This isn't all, not all. But it's so common that thousands of men from across the world that did not know each other figured this out. This is why when an ex-corn star comes out, Nala, everyone was crucifying me for saying, hey, this isn't real. She just wants to get married and have a platform. Everyone crucified me and said that I was wrong for saying that, but it's bigger than me. It's not even based on me. It's based on the experience of thousands of men. So the purpose of the red pill is to increase men's sexual power and options. What does that mean? That means if a guy says, you know what, I want to get married and start a family, he can go to certain channels and say, these are the tools to do it. If a guy wants to have multiple girlfriends, they can get together and say, this is how you do it. And the issue you get is the moralists come in. So oftentimes these are the Christians, and they say that is wrong. But you aren't going to stop the men that want to have multiple wives, multiple girlfriends, date around. It's never going to stop. You can't change that. So saying that's wrong does nothing. And some men go to the red pill and they want to fix their relationship with their wife. Some men want to figure out how to get laid. Some men, they all they do is they come together and they say, these are the experiences I've had, and they develop patterns. So how do men increase their sexual power? One way is to figure out the strategies that women use to sell purity when they're not pure and be able to detect them. So when that woman comes to church at 27 and said she found God, the men know that it's a bit of BS. And maybe if a woman was more genuine, it would happen when she was younger and didn't go on 10 yachts the year before. So that's one way they do it. And the issue Brett is going to have here is men care more about actions than words. And women have lost the benefit of the doubt. Men used to give women the benefit of the doubt, but this is how men view it. A woman turn, let's say 18, and she has the option to date basketball players, athletes, maybe just the best looking guy in her hometown, if she's attractive. Men will assume that something has happened. Even women that say they're virgins, they still have strategies where they're not as innocent as they're projecting. So women that are virgins on their wedding day, but did everything else with 3 different guys, that's not uncommon. Women that are virgins on their wedding days, but had been in the club the year before making out with a bunch of different guys. So again, it's the women signaling, I am pure, but the actions don't completely match up, and they figure out some sort of workaround. Again, this isn't me saying this. This is thousands of men across the world saying, hey, I married a woman who said she was a virgin, and she did things with half the town. Or, hey, I married a woman who said she was a virgin. She wasn't even a virgin. So what does that leave men to conclude? Assume women are promiscuous. That is the baseline assumption. Because at this age, at this day and age, there's nothing stopping women. You can download a dating app and hook up with the best looking guys in your city, in your hometown. You can download Instagram, and high-level men can message you, and you can be on a yacht on Saturday. That is the conclusion many men come to. So let me find this. So when she is putting stuff out and signaling, I am pure, most men will not believe it. And the conclusion a lot of men come to is the women, and again, this is thousands of experiences, the women that tend to work harder to signal that they are pure are the least pure ones. Because it's almost like they're making up for something that they're not. Here's another one. She said, as an adult, you are free to have sex. However, no one is free to have sex without potential consequences. It shouldn't be hard for people to understand. My mother repeatedly told me not to sleep with somebody that I wouldn't be willing to have a child with right then. It's common sense. This protected me from a lot of heartbreak. As it turns out, there was only one man that fits the requirement. So here she's signaling. And I'm just going to tell you, I have no idea what this woman has done. I don't care. But I want you to understand how many men see it. So this is signaling, I am pure. I am pure. I am different, right? Then the men ask, did you go to a college? She went to a big school. Then the men ask, she was in a sorority. Okay. Then the men ask, and I think it's, let me pull up this clip. Then the men ask, No. Oh, it's in my Google Doc. Then the men ask, okay, was she on dating apps? And so in this clip, she's saying she was on, I think it was Tinder. And by the way, I want to preface, I don't know, I don't care what she did, but I think women should understand how men view it. Because a lot of times when you see these tweets, you think these guys are nuts. And I did too when I first got into the space. I just thought, why is this old man tweeting this stuff? This is weird. But here.
First dating experience ever was online. And I think that's the case for the majority of my generation, which in my opinion is why we're so confused and so warped when it comes to dating, because we literally don't know how to date. Like my first dating experiences of like talking to guys were over Instagram DMs, we're on Tinder, we're on Hinge.
Okay, so this is how a guy's gonna think. Okay, this woman is signaling I am pure, but she went to a party school in a sorority and was on Tinder. That's how men will see it. And that's why you're going to have tweets like this saying, did you lose your virginity to your husband? Because the question is, and the question you have to ask too with the virgins is, okay, so you're a virgin, so you haven't done anything else. Nothing. No oral, no, I don't want to get too detailed, but nothing. And usually when you ask that question, women hesitate. I'll show you an example. So, because a common complaint that I got when I was interviewing women that somehow I was only selecting city girls. It didn't matter how much I went into the country and I would find the same patterns of behavior in the country and the city. It didn't really matter. Small towns, big towns, women, again, remember, in order for women to survive, they had to sell purity. This is survival. So I was on this show, and there's 3 women I'm on the show with, and they're all signaling I am pure. I am traditional. I am pure. And I had to ask the question because what I try to live in is reality. I try to live in what is real, what is not real. And if the women are signaling, I am pure, I am different, I am special, I have to put their money where their mouths are, right? Let's not play pretend. 3% of people are waiting till they're married. That's not really common. And of the 3% of people that are waiting till they're married, what percent are not overweight or obese, unattractive, disabled? Small percentage, okay? I mean, was anyone here virgin on their wedding night? Anyone? No? And I'm on this show, right? And the 3 trad women, one has partial nudes on the internet. The other had kids with different guys. And the other, the third woman, and I don't say this as a criticism, right? I'm not special, different. I'm a woman too. So I'm not trying to attack them. I'm just trying to describe what's going on. The other woman believed that it was her place to tell other men how to speak to their wives. That's not traditional. And that's a common thing with conservative women. They say, I am traditional. I am pure. I am different. That's their signaling. And by the way, the women that really are that tend to not have to signal it. They just are. But most of those women think it's their place to tell men how to talk. They think it's their place to tell the top men that it's bad to sleep around. But part of femininity is knowing that you cannot control men. And this is something I've had to learn too, right? But that's part of femininity is knowing they're out of your control. You cannot control a man. And if you try to, that's very masculine. Okay. So why do we... And look at their faces. Sorry. Look at their faces, right? Because a lot of times women lie to themselves. I'm traditional, I'm pure. But the actions, right, which are more important than words, they don't match up. I mean, you can pull this down. And why is this important? So a lot of times the criticism is, why do you care? why do men in this space care? Because what happens is young, naive men that don't know better get very damaged by not knowing this information. For example, a young guy goes to church and he meets, let's say, a 26-year-old woman, 25. Now, a guy that knows what's going on knows that most women are sexually active in high school. That, on average, balance of probabilities, most women are sexually active in high school. But let's say 18. So from the time that woman was 18, she went to college and maybe a major city or whatever city she's in. Most women have access to high-level men from a very young age. So a guy that knows what's going on says, okay, she's 25. There's something there that I'm not going to like, but I like her. It's great. But at least that man goes into the ordeal or goes into the relationship with the expectation that there's probably something he doesn't like. Now, let's take the men that get fooled by this stuff. Let's take the men that don't know better, that don't have a lot of experience with women. They go into this interaction and they say, wow, I found this pure woman that is different and special. Now, let's say he marries her and they have 3 children together. What would it do? How crushed would he be if he sees a sex tape that woman made during college? How crushed would he be if he found she hooked up with Joe, whoever it was? The guy number 2, and some men end up committing suicide or harming themselves in some way when they find out that their wife did something crazy before they met her. Men mentally are in a much better place if they just assume there is something that he is not going to like. Because one is being realistic and one is being idealistic. 3% of women are waiting till they're married. And the other issue you get is then men assume men will waste a bunch of time on women that are not actually interested. What they'll do is they will put a woman on a pedestal, say she's different, special, whatever, and they will do all this work, take a woman on dates, get in full-blown relationships where the woman is not giving the man sex. But the guy that knows what's going on knows that if she likes you, she's sleeping with you. If she's not sleeping with you, she doesn't like you. That is more realistic than what the traditional conservatives say. Because the traditional conservatives say, go to church and find a good woman. And oftentimes, it's not uncommon, and not all, I'm sure you guys have a special church somewhere out there that's different. A lot of times, there's predatory women in the church. Because they're going there because they know there's a bunch of naive men that don't know better. And that's really, really common. And that's why you keep seeing these ex-corn stars where Amber Rose is talking at a conservative convention. Nala is a speaker. Nala, the corn star. That's why we're even getting corn star pastors. Because again, it's signaling purity. Let me view the chat really quick because I haven't looked at you guys. 1,300. Wait, you guys didn't marry virgins? Yeah, and guys, I don't want this to be a criticism. I really try to say, not special, not different. I have a lot of the same issues that other women have. I'm not. But what I'm trying to do is describe what's going on. Because a lot of times when Rollo does a tweet like this, I don't think people can understand what he's saying. He's saying... And, you know, as much as he always talks, you know, trash about me, I know he doesn't like me, but the way I view his book is I view that his book saves lives. So even if he feels that way, I'm never going to dish it back because the information in his book saves people's lives. It really does. And you see and this is the thing, if you ever question a woman's purity. People view it as you attacking the woman. Candace Owens is another one. A lot of times they go on these shows, they signal, I am pure, I'm special, I'm different. But Candace Owens got married at 30. Usually the average age of first sexual experiences is 16. Let's be generous and say it's 18. That's still 12 years. And again, I don't know what any of these women did. I don't really care. But the realist in me says, yeah, whatever. And that's what these guys are saying. They're not saying these women are bad. They're not saying they're wrong. They're not even saying that they're sluts or hoes. They're saying, yeah, whatever, we don't believe you. And whenever the men say that, that is when they attack the man, and say that he's wrong for it. So here's another one. Did you lose your virginity to your wife? No, I'm not making a living off of late game virtue signaling about sport effing either. Yeah, so what these traditional conservatives will do is they'll say degeneracy is evil. And I saw this firsthand, guys. I promise you, I saw this firsthand, where they'll go on these shows and make a living saying degeneracy is bad, degeneracy is evil, but they're doing the same thing. And when you give men with no experience the wrong information, they might think that a woman that says, I need you to wait 3 months for sex is actually interested and she's special and different. Now, maybe if you're really young, maybe. But if you're 25, 26, she does not like you, okay? And you start to dig into, I think Matt Walsh said he met his wife on Match.com. Okay, so let me get this straight. Your wife was 25 to 27 on Match.com. And I don't mean this as an attack, right? But when these guys are saying, live like me, my way of living is better than yours. And that's often what they signal. I am different. I am pure. My way of living is better. I have to look at, what they're doing. And so when Matt says, degeneracy is evil, Christianity is the answer. Okay, but you met your wife on Match.com. What was she doing the last decade? Ben Shapiro says, okay, Judaism is the answer, right? Okay, but your wife said she didn't want to marry you and you had to beg her to do it. Is that something most men would want? And I don't even like talking like this, but because I'm not trying to criticize them or attack them, but what I'm trying to explain is that a lot of it is play, pretend, and fake. When many times they're doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, and they want to sell you their religion. That's what they're selling. My religion is the best religion. My religion is great. And this is the answer to all of your problems, my religion. And that just isn't what I've seen be effective. If anything, from my experience, and I went to a non-denominational church. I grew up Catholic, but I went to a non-denominational church for 2 to 3 years. And at the non-denominational church, I was very involved. I went to all the events. I did Bible studies. And the most common couple that I would see would be a guy that was a virgin or close to it, and a woman that had a lot of sexual experience. And that was the most common couple I would see. And the guy usually, I don't think he was aware of what he was signing up for. So the reason that these guys have to give men that information is so men at least are aware of what they're signing up for. It's one thing for a guy to say, you know what? Okay, this woman kind of has a past and I don't like it, but I think she's a good person. Let's figure it out. And it's another thing when men go in and have an angelic view of their wives to the point it's just not realistic. Another example was when I debated Michael Knowles. And Michael Knowles said that it was immoral to ask your wife for a paternity test. Paternity fraud is such a big issue in this country. People think it's a one-off. I think that it's underreported. I was on a plane the other day, and there was a woman I met who told me that she always felt different than her siblings. She couldn't figure it out, and when she was 45, she figured out that her dad wasn't her dad, and that her mom was dating 2 men at the time, and she thought one would be a better dad, so she lied. This is not uncommon. And Michael Knowles is going on a show telling men, young men that don't know better, because a lot of Christian young men, they don't know better, that you are wrong and immoral for asking for a paternity test. And when Michael Knowles talks about his story with his wife, well, they broke up for college. You have no idea what your wife did for college. And conservatives are really logical with incentives when it comes to taxes. They'll say, when you pay people to do the wrong thing, they'll do it. When you explain that with unemployment, with taxes, it's super easy for them to understand. But when you say, hey, women are paid to lie. If a woman goes to church, puts on her conservative dress, gets in the kitchen, starts saying Christian rhetoric, whatever, if she finds a guy that has a decent salary, she is paid to fool him. Wouldn't it make sense that a good percentage of women do that? If women are incentivized to hide their past, wouldn't it make sense that a good percentage of women would do that? That's just common sense. Not all. There are good women, right? There are special women or whatever. I'm sure your wife is super different. But, you know, a lot of men get married, they do the whole thing, and they don't know what they're signing up for. And some of them harm themselves when they figure it out. There's one story on Reddit where a guy found out his wife did a gangbang in college. He met her in church, found out she did a gangbang in college. That guy was devastated. What does he do now? He has kids with this woman. Other men find out they're victims of paternity fraud. A solution-oriented approach would be, okay, there's probably something. If I find out, I find out. We'll do a paternity test at birth. We'll never get married with the state. That's solution-oriented. Saying, assuming that your wife that you met on Match.com is special and different is just not wise, especially when women are incentivized to lie. Yeah, so I think that's everything I really have today. I'm sorry to Brett. I don't mean to, not sorry, but I don't mean this as an attack. I have no idea what these women did in the past. I really don't care. But I just think that women should understand. I think that we as women need to understand where the men are coming from and why they think like this. Because a lot of times these guys are criticized for asking these questions instead of saying, where are they coming from? Okay, so anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you like the video on your way out and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. As you guys know, I'm always trying to just report the news here. So like the video, subscribe, and please sign up to the Audacity Network. Being demonetized has been really rough, just from a business point of view. So if you guys sign up to the network, it can help fund documentaries. You know, there's a couple guests we've wanted to have on, but we have to pay for their travel, their housing, and it's just a little bit expensive. And then also we're going to do a 30-minute show after this. On the website, you guys can ask me questions directly in real time, so make sure you sign up, like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you on the website, theaudacitynetwork.com.